Hey guys, LL Man here for another late night deck profile, and as you can see from the name, we are revisiting D Reaper. I actually played this deck back when it first came out, but the meta was kind of weird. The deck didn't really have that much removal options aside from, teching in different colors and its own was it like ADR guy, Pallades had. It was the only removal that the deck essentially had. So I kind of didn't really like how that worked. So I decided to kind of put this deck on the back burner for a while, kind of sitting in my deck box basically. And finally, this deck actually has been excelling, especially now that a yellow hybrid has been hit. It hasn't really been seen as much. But with this deck, now that it's gone, Yellow Hybrid basically was keeping this in check, and now this can finally come out and basically do stuff essentially. Because before it was just being hard checked by everything in the meta, but surprisingly, this actually has a really good matchup against Alphamon. But it honestly depends if you can get your sources out and get your gatekeepers out basically against Alpha. Against Grandis, it's really rough. Wargreymon X, it's pretty rough. Metalgaruru is super free. If you play the deck how it's supposed to be and you get your searchers and just kind of reduce cost nonstop, you can potentially basically get out two gatekeepers and just do -2 security on them no matter what, and they basically cannot swing for anything. And all their effects only hit levels, and there are no levels in this deck except for Defx and Starmon. So you basically they can't hit anything. As long as you don't swing, they can't hit your gatekeepers, and they are basically stuck just kind of sitting there and building nonstop. Even their Omni can't even get through, which is really gross. Shout out to my friend Ian for helping me test it today in locals when I played him in tournament today. Really sorry about the two gatekeepers in security, but that's honestly, I just got super lucky, and if those hadn't been in there, he would have destroyed me in like one hit. Because he was swinging for 6 checks and he was actually untapping. He had like 2 Orumons, I believe, so he managed to basically swing for all my security. But thankfully, he hit. Thankfully for me, genuinely, he hit into a gatekeeper and then a second gatekeeper as my last security, which was really busted. That honestly saved me, and if not, I would have lost. But anyway, let's get into the deck profile so I can show you what I mean by how ridiculous this deck is. So of course for the egg, you have to run the 4 Mother Reapers. You cannot run any other egg because if you do, it completely destroys the consistency of this deck and you can't basically do your Reaper stuff basically. But this card is really stupid and busted because the fact that it can't be affected by your opponent's effects. The only way to basically take it down is by hitting an unsuspended, so only black and red have the basically they are the only decks that have access to that. Aside from, I believe, maybe Grandis, but even then, he can't tap this, so they can't really do anything about it. But really cool is that once per turn, you can just equip a searcher onto it and just kind of build up its stack. Uh, Also, the fact that this was never affected by Tommy or any removal from Blue Hybrid, so it was super free against it. Then, of course, anytime you play anything with D Reaper, you can reduce the cost once, uh, depending on how much is underneath. So if you have like a 3 cost, but you have 2, you can turn it into a 1 cost. If you have a 5 cost and you have 6, it becomes 0 cost. It just keeps building. So really busted card. And you have to have 4 of this. Can't have less. Then let's get into there's not really levels in this deck, so let's just get into the ADRs. Well, actually, let's get into the rookies. The only levels we have are the rookies, actually, and DefX, but we'll get to that. So we run the 4 Starmons because you can basically swarm the board really fast by like maybe turn 2 or 3. You already have like 5 or 6 ADR already on the field, so you don't really have to like worry, and you just go like, oh, okay, I'll pop 5,000, kill. You can basically kill any armor with this, which is really nice. Then, of course, the only other leveled Digimon in this is 2 Def X's because 2 Def X is still really busted. This helped me pop an entire alpha field. Also, it helps against Metalgaruru. It helps against basically any deck that wants to overrun you. This will punish them for basically trying to overextend, and because you basically get to reduce the cost of 20 by 3 for every Tamer and Digimon. So you basically just go, oh, okay, so this is like 5 cost, and I just pop your whole ID Digimon revolve your whole field and pop anything level 4 or less. So really broken. I was running 3, but I felt it was kind of slightly bricky, so I went down to 2. So yeah, that's all the level Digimon of this deck. Then let's get into the actual Reaper cards. So first, we run 3 Jerrys because she is our primary search, one of our primary searchers, because she can tap herself to basically search the top 5 to basically put a searcher underneath Mother Reaper. So really good, and the fact that it does get boosted by stuff, so it can go pretty high, and 5,000 is pretty big. Then we run, of course, the ADR searcher. We run 20 copies of this card. Yep, we run 20 copies of this card because you want to see your searcher. Do not put this below 20. I tried it and I basically whiffed a few times with Jerry. So I was like, okay, I'm going back to 20, not 19. So I went back, and I feel it's actually much better with 20. So keep it at an even number. Do not do an, I think for some reason this deck, whenever you do an odd number for any of the like the searchers, you basically don't see them sometimes. And I had matches where I just drew like nothing on these. I just drew everything else, but just not this. So yeah, keep it at 20. Do not lower it past that, because this you need this because this is your main draw engine, and it helps you set up your Mother Reaper. Aside from the 20 copies we have here, we're running 4 Pendulum Feet. This one is one of your other searchers. You can search the top 3. You can add a searcher and basically anything with D Reaper in its traits, so really powerful. Then we run 4 Bubbles because not only is it a security Digimon, but on play it gets to basically put a searcher from the field or in your hand underneath Mother Reaper, which is really busted because the fact that it's a security Digimon and you can do that, that's gross. So if your opponent hits into it but they don't finish you for game and you already have 7 with the equip from this, you basically just go next turn, okay, Reaper swing for like 5 checks and you win. So really powerful. Then we run 2 creep hands because blockers are still actually pretty viable now, even with piercing. The fact that you have a blocker is really cool because it basically protects your security for most of it. And yeah, it's just really good. Then we're running 1 Pallades head. Originally I had 2, but this card was bricking me a lot, and it didn't really do anything half the time because most of the time I was removing the board with Starmon or with Def X, so I didn't really need this. So yeah, it was just really clutch, honestly. I honestly would rather just run 1 copy for now and just stick with that. Then we run 4 Gatekeepers because Gatekeeper is actually one of the most broken cards in the deck because on play you just heal recover as long as you have Mother Reaper, which is basically 100% of the time, so you will get that heal. And then if you have 6 or more sources, this does -1 security, and if you have multiples, they do stack, so you basically can do -2 most of the time, and then maybe like 3 or 4 if you really wanted to. You could. So if you manage to summon all 4 of these, basically every Digimon on the field is going to get -4 security, so nothing will be checking your security at that time, unless you're playing red. Red will, of course, get over that, but rarely, because most of the time they will check for 4, so that means that they'll just be checking for 0 unless they're checking for 5. So you have to be, so this card's really crucial. You have to run it at 4. It's really good. And then for the last Reaper card, we're running 3 Reapers, of course. You want to see this as soon as possible, so then you can just start building up the stack underneath Mother Reaper and then swing for game afterwards. You do poke with all these guys to kind of get their security low and to kind of get rid of option cards like Chaos Degrade or Hell Scythe. So that way, when this hits in, it doesn't hit those, and you should be fine. I was running this at 2 like way back when this deck first came out, but it felt really kind of, I just always milled it out somehow in my security, or I just never drew it. So I put a 3rd one in to basically see it as often as possible, and it actually feels pretty good. It's really strong. For anybody that doesn't know what it does, basically when you have 7 or more sources underneath this, you can trash all of them. Then you get to play this for 0 cost, and then you go, it also has rush, so the moment it comes out, it can already start swinging. So you swing, then you equip a searcher, 2 of them, to untap itself and give it +1,000 for each. So basically, after its first swing and it unsuspends itself, it's already at 17,000. So it basically punches over everything at that point. Then you just keep going and building plus 2,000 on it for every attack. And by the time you win, you should be at like 19,000, maybe like 21, maybe 25,000 when you hit swing. So this thing is going to get really big and just punch over everything. So you don't even need jamming. You just need the little guys to poke through and then swing for game with him, which is really busted. But yeah, that's basically all the Reaper cards we run in the deck. The last three cards of this deck are actually just option cards. It's just three option cards, three X-Antibody. So the weird thing about this card is that it lets you play it under any Digimon, and you can play it underneath a Mother Reaper. So you can basically give it an extra source, and it lets you basically count it as a source, so you can actually speed it up slightly with the reduction. So you can play like you can play the gatekeeper faster. You can play basically anything faster in this deck, which is really busted. I know that it says that it's like main you place this under one of your Digimon, but for some the weird thing is that I don't know how the ruling works, but this is considered a Digi-Egg, but yet it's out in the field, so I don't know if it's a Digimon or not, but like the fact that you can play this and just equip it like this, you basically just get to have a free source that can never be trashed, which is really busted. But yeah, that's just how crazy the deck is that you can do crazy stuff like that. But yeah, that's the deck. I've played against Galmon, I've played against Alphamon, I've played against metalgaruru. I haven't played Grandis, and I haven't played against wargreymon X, but I know that Grandis and wargreymon X are probably the worst matchups for this deck. Every other deck, it's actually pretty easy because you can memory choke them a lot most of the time, and they can't really do stuff unless they pass it to your turn. So they kind of have to overextend just to pass it to your turn or give you less memory. So it's really solid. Aside from that, the deck actually has a really good matchup against a lot of things. It's just really powerful how fast it can just keep going and just like start kind of protecting itself and swinging and poking. It's just a really weird deck, but at the same time, it's a really powerful deck. So I highly recommend trying out my build here as a template. It's not the best build, but it's a good starting point. So I highly recommend trying it out and seeing what you think of the deck. And yeah, as usual, let me know what you thought of the deck, and I'll see you guys next time.